Welcome to the Traveling Flaneur podcast, where I'll talk about the economy, politics, history, and culture of the places I've visited. I'll also give you travel tips, recommend places to visit, things to do, and the best food. The life of a flaneur is that of an observer, a person who wanders aimlessly with eyes always open to any opportunity. It is a person who is in no hurry and prefers the journey over the destination. I believe that in this hurried world we live in, we need more flaneurs, and I hope you enjoy the perspective from a traveling flaneur and maybe become one in your next trip. Hi, and welcome to the 4th episode of Canada, in which I will take you to other national parks in the country. My last 2 episodes were dedicated to talking about Banff, because this is the flagship park and it's the most popular and it's the one that everyone is talking about when they're traveling to this area. But if you really want to explore the beauty of the Canadian Rockies, I think Banff is an understatement because this area has much more to offer. In today's episode, I'll take you to other parks including Yoho, Kootenay, and Jasper. These parks, along with Banff, are parks that represent the Canadian mountains, and this are the Canadian Rocky Mountain Park World Heritage Site designated by UNESCO. So in this episode, I'll tell you all about these parks and the secret places that are a little bit more hidden from tourists, but are equally as beautiful. So let's start with Yoho. This park is very close to Lake Louise, and it's located west of Banff and north of Kootenay. Yoho was established in 1886 after the Prime Minister John A. Macdonald and his wife visited this area. It became Canada's second national park, just after Banff. And this park is also large, but not as big as Banff. It has over 400 kilometers of trails, it has 28 peaks that are over 3,000 meters, and also 61 lakes and ponds. And even if this sounds like a very big natural park, remember that Banff has over 1,600 kilometers of trails, so that means that it's 4 times as big as Yoho. But either way, I think Yoho is a place that you should include in your trip because it has several things that are worth visiting. First and foremost would be the Emerald Lake, which is the most famous of all of this park. This is a lake that, with the name you can start guessing, it won't be as blue, it will be a little bit more greenish, hence its name, but it is very beautiful, very big, and very popular too. When you go, you can decide if you want to do canoeing here or if you want to do some trails and walking. Canoeing is expensive, but it's not as expensive as it is on Lake Louise or in Moraine because it will cost you only $100 per hour. And yes, if this sounds expensive, remember that Lake Louise was $160 per hour, so at least here it's a little bit better. But be careful because they are going to have shorter times for renting the canoes. So you should check at what time they're opening or closing, because when I went, I did some trekkings first, and then when I came back at 4 p.m. they were closed already, and I couldn't rent my kayak even though it was summer and it was and the sunset was like 8 p.m. They stopped renting at 4 p.m. just because this person wanted to close early today. So you have to be careful, check their closing times as soon as you get there so you can do canoeing if you want to do that. Again, I was telling you that the other things that you can do in the lake are going to be some trekkings. So first, the one that you could do that is very easy, it's just 5 kilometers around the lake, and this one is going to be a flat walk. It's going to be a very easy trail if you want to. But when I went, I also saw a sign that showed all the trails in the area, and I saw some waterfalls that supposedly were 30-minute round-trip walk away. So these waterfalls appeared as the Hamilton Falls, and with my friends I decided to do that hike, but it wasn't at all how it was described over there because first it wasn't a very easy trail. I would say that it was actually moderate or getting to difficult part because it was very steep and it took us over an hour and a half to do the entire trail. And so actually I wouldn't recommend it. I didn't like it as much because on top of all of that, the views were nothing special. Maybe it's because the time of the year that I visited, but I don't recommend this hike. So if you want to do it, I would say don't do it. I would rather do the hike around the lake, or I would do canoeing, which is something that I missed because I was doing this other hike that took me way longer than expected. But anyways, this lake is very good and you should visit it. And after Emerald Lake, you can also go to some attraction that's nearby, and it's called the Natural Bridge. It's around a 10-minute drive from Emerald Lake, but this one is definitely worth visiting because it's a solid rock bridge that was created naturally by the Kicking Horse River, which is the one that's running underneath. And this is a stop where you just park your car and you walk probably 5 minutes in order to see this bridge. So these are going to be some very beautiful views for very little effort, and I would highly recommend it because of the beautiful views that you have. Then, if you also have more time to keep exploring Yoho, you could go to some of the waterfalls that are in this park. There are some that are called the Wapta Falls, or there are also the ones called Takakau Falls. The Takakau are the second highest waterfalls in Canada with a drop of 254 meters. To get to these two waterfalls, you can get there by car. You can just Google them and drive up to this location, but be careful because the road is going to be closed during the winter time, and that is sometimes going to mean that it will be closed from October to maybe mid-June. So be careful. You can only view them in July, August, or September, approximately. The fifth place that you could visit in Yoho also is called Lake O'Hara. When I went to Yoho, I didn't have enough extra days, so I didn't have enough time to go to this place. But I know that it is one of the most beautiful lakes in this area, and it is considered to be at the level of Moraine or Louise. To get there, you also need to hire a specialized shuttle because the road is not open for private vehicles, and the shuttle is only going to run from end of June to the first week of October. You need to book this shuttle in advance, and it is so popular that there are even wait lists to book the shuttle. So if I had enough time and I was going to plan my trip back again, I would dedicate a whole day for being in Lake O'Hara. I also read that there are 11 kilometers of trails over there, so I think it would be a plan maybe similar to what I described in Moraine or Louise back in my other episodes, where you can take the shuttle and kind of stay there as much as possible and then come back. I will drop the link in the description so you can schedule the shuttle if you decide to go, and if you do visit, tell me in the comments what you thought of it and if it was worth it. And well, the last thing that you could do in Yoho is one of my favorite plans, and it is rafting. In Yoho, there is an incredible river for rafting, the one that I was talking to you earlier, Kicking Horse River, and there are many agencies that are doing this tour. I think they all offer the exact same tour, but mine was called Kootenay River Runners. And with them, I booked the Extreme Whitewater Tour. For this tour, you're going to find rapids that are class 3 or 4, which for those of you who haven't done rafting before, it means that you will have very high and big rapids, but it's going to be super fun and it's not dangerous. Rafting is pretty safe, and if you haven't done it before, it doesn't matter because you don't need previous experience to do it. And in fact, when I did it in this river, it was my first time doing rafting and I loved it, and I would do it over and over again. Our guide was super clear, and if you just follow the instructions that your guide will be telling you, you won't fall or nothing bad will happen. You will only get very, very wet. So I really liked my agency. I would recommend it, and I'll drop the link in the description in case you also want to use them. But if you don't use them specifically, you'll find that there are many other companies that are providing the similar tours, and they're all in the Kicking Horse River. After visiting all of this in Yoho, you could also go to another small park nearby that's called the Glacier National Park. And this one was created actually on the same day as Yoho, in 1886, but a little bit later, so it is the third national park in Canada. This park is smaller and much less popular because it is not part of the UNESCO list, but honestly, I think it has the very beautiful scenery and it's just as impressive as the others, and it is definitely worth adding to your list and to your visit. When I went, I only visited 2 things in this park. There is a trail called the Hermit Trailhead, which gives you some amazing views and it is not very long, but the bad thing is that it will be a little bit hard. So the overall trip is going to be 6 kilometers round trip. It will take you around 3 or 4 hours depending on your physical condition, but it will be quite steep. So if you're not in good shape, it might not be the best trail for you. The second place that I visited is called the Bear Creek Falls Trail. This trail is going to be much shorter and it would take you 30 or 40 minutes round trip, so it is very, very short. The views are breathtaking because this is a very large waterfall, so I think the reward is very large for a very low level of effort. This waterfall has a drop of 25 meters, but it is very strong, so be prepared to get wet because when you're starting to get closer for taking the pictures, all of the water that's rising from the waterfall will get you extremely wet. So this hike was definitely worth it. It was one of the most beautiful waterfalls that I saw in my entire trip, and I would highly recommend it. After this park, another park that I would recommend to you would be Kootenay. This is a part of the UNESCO ones, and it is the least crowded of all of them. This park is perfect if you want good views and little walking because most of the views are going to be either on the road or just short distances from the parking lot. So even if you don't want to get out of the car, driving around here would bring you incredible views, and it would take you around 1 hour 20 minutes to cross the entire park. So this would be something that I would highly recommend. When I went, I drove through Kootenay almost every day because after crossing this park from Banff, you will get to Radium Hot Springs. And if you listen to my previous episodes, I was recommending this place as one of the places to stay because you'll find cheaper accommodation and you will find big cabins. So I was staying in Radium Hot Springs, and almost every day I had to either cross here or drive up north in order to get to the other parks that I'm talking. And so all of the recommendations that I'm going to give you in Kootenay are going to be thinking as if you were driving from Radium Hot Springs into Lake Louise. If you're doing the route the other way, you can then just switch all of the stops that I'm telling you, and you would start by the last one. But if you're starting from Radium, the first place that you should visit would be Olive Lake, which is going to be green, again by its name, but it is going to have very calm waters that are going to reflect the mountains, and it is very, very beautiful. You can see this lake from your car while you're driving, or you can park and just walk 5 minutes in order to see it up close, but it is definitely going to be worth it. After that lake, there is going to be a viewpoint called Kootenay Valley Viewpoint, and here you can park and see the whole valley of mountains and peaks. And I think, again, this is just incredible views for very little effort. You couldn't even see it from the car, but it's just a parking lot, you get down, and those are the views. And I would think this is an amazing place to watch the entire valley. Then the next stop that I would recommend is called the Numa Creek Trailhead. Here, if you walk for a few minutes, you will also find a waterfall very, very close, probably 5 minutes away from the parking lot. Or you could continue, if you want to do a longer trail, to another lake that is going to be called the Flow Lake. And this one is going to be quiet, it's going to be relaxing, and it is a perfect place to watch the sunrise or the sunset. Finally, the last stop that you should make in Kootenay would be the Marble Canyon Trailhead. Again, this is going to be a pretty easy hike. It's only going to be 1.4 kilometers round trip, and it is kind of paved, so it is going to be very easy to walk. It is a nice canyon, and also while you're walking, you'll find different places that are going to give you viewpoints and will also tell you a little bit of the story of this canyon. So all of these places that I've been mentioning in Kootenay are very nice, they are not so crowded, and they have incredible views. So if you're looking for tranquility, not to walk a lot, and not so many crowds, I think this is your park. My next recommendation would be to drive along the most beautiful highway in the entire world. So beautiful that it is part of the UNESCO section, and it is called the Icefields Parkway. This highway is one that connects Lake Louise with Jasper, and it is so beautiful that it is a natural park per se, so you are going to need the Natural Parks Pass in order to drive through this road. But I highly recommend it because it is one of the most beautiful places in the area and definitely the prettiest road that I've ever driven in my entire life. On this highway, there are also quite a few things that you can see, even from the car, but there are some stops that you can do, and you can either just see them close to the parking or you can do some trails. So it is a good mix if you want to do both. If you're leaving from Lake Louise to Jasper, the first stop that you should make would be the Bow Lake. This is going to be a turquoise lake where you can kayak or canoe, but only if you bring your own, because you won't find places that are going to be renting it to you. So it is a very good place for doing this kayaking or canoeing, or if not, it might also be a perfect place to watch the sunset. The next stop that you can make is going to be Peyto Lake, with a Y. And this is another popular lake that's going to be kind of like Emerald Lake, Moraine, or Louise, because it is a very blue glacier lake that it is shaped like a wolf. During the summer, it is said that large amounts of glacial rock flour are flowing into this lake, and these particles are the ones that will give it its special blue color. And this is the same phenomena that gives Lake Louise its color. So to get the overlook, it's going to be a short hike of about 15 minutes into the viewpoint that you can see the entire lake. But this trail is paved, so everyone, even people in wheelchairs, can go and see the lake up close. But if you want to do more, some people would suggest doing the Bow Summit, which is another place many people use for watching the lake. I had read that this one supposedly gave you the best views, and I did the trail, but surprisingly, it didn't give me any better views. I was actually a little bit further, and so I would recommend it, but only for the fun of walking and for making this trail. It wasn't difficult, but again, it was around 7 kilometers round trip, and I don't think I got a better view than the one that I got from the lookout point. So if you want to do it, it's great because it's fun to do the walking, but you'll get equally good views just from the viewpoint. After the stop, the next stop would be a lake viewpoint that's called Waterfowl Lake. And this one, you don't have to walk, it's just parking. And as soon as you step down, you can get the views of this lake. Again, you could do kayaking or canoeing here if you're bringing your own things. But it's another beautiful lake where you can stop and maybe have a picnic nearby. Then, if you continue driving, you'll get to Saskatchewan River Crossing. Here, this is going to be like a big store. It has a gas station, and you have the option to detour to another road where you'll find Abraham Lake, or you can continue to Jasper. When I went, I didn't detour, but because I didn't have enough time, I've heard that Abraham Lake is very beautiful. I just continued on my way to Jasper, and then I made some other stops throughout the way. So one of them was going to be the Weeping Wall, and this means, as the name says it, like a wall that is crying a little bit of water. It was fun. And then you also find the Columbia Icefield. And those are going to be some glaciers or ice fields that are the largest south of the Arctic Circle. They have an area of 325 square kilometers and a depth between 100 and 365 meters. And it's said that they receive up to 7 meters of snow per year. So during the summer months, you can take a tour, you can travel to this glacier, and although I didn't do it, this is some of the things that people recommend doing in Jasper National Park, because by then, you'll already be in Jasper National Park. Further on, you can keep driving and you'll find two large waterfalls that you can visit. One is going to be Sunwapta Falls and the other ones are going to be Athabasca Falls. The Sunwapta Falls are going to have a small drop of like 18 meters, but they are going to be impressive because they are fed by the glacier. And so in spring, they are especially strong. And the other ones, the Athabasca Falls, are also impressive and not much because of their height, but because of their strength and their great size. And those are also going to be very close to the city or town of Jasper. So if you make the trip all the way up till here, I would recommend that you can stay at least one night or two in Jasper, because if you're heading back now, it would be too long to drive. And that's what happened to me. I had a very long day driving, but if I would have had more time, I would have just kept driving up north and stayed in Jasper. Also, when I went, Jasper was closed because there had been some fires during the summer, so that was very sad, but if I would go back again, I would definitely sleep in Jasper for at least a couple nights. And then, if you're staying in Jasper, you could visit some of the things that I didn't get to visit. There are some beautiful lakes around that area, like Patricia Lake, Pyramid Lake, or even a canyon that's called Maline Canyon. And I think if you did this trip, including all of these parks and Banff, it would be the entire perfect plan for covering the Canadian Rockies. If you're asking me how to split your time during all of these parks, I would say that it would take you around 10 days total, and I would spend 4 or 5 days in Banff, 2 in Yoho, 1 in Kootenay, 1 in Glacier, and 1 driving to Jasper via the Icefields Parkway, and then 1 or 2 days in Jasper. When I went, I only had a week, so I didn't make it all the way up to Jasper. I didn't take this 2 days, and I also didn't take 1 day for Kootenay because I was doing Kootenay every day since I was driving, so I just did little stops here and there. But this is how I covered my 7 days, and I think this is the perfect itinerary for exploring the Canadian Rockies. I hope that after listening to this episode, you already know about all of the places that you should include to your visit in Yoho, Glacier, Kootenay, Icefields Parkway, and Jasper. If you like this episode, please share it with someone else who loves to travel and give me a review, because this helps me tremendously and it motivates me to give you more travel tips. Let me know in the comments if there's anything that surprised you about this episode, and I hope to see you next week for visiting another Canadian city. Safe travels!